Hello everyone, welcome to this week's GT Sport Daily Race C Strategy Guide, where we are visiting the Ardennes Forest circuit this at Francorchamp, and we are in Group 2 machinery. New combination, I do believe, certainly not one that I remember ever playing particularly well, certainly not in Daily Race C anyway. I do think it has been a feature of FIA races in the past, but here is the sort of detailed settings for this one. 9 laps to get round, but it is an over 2 minute lap, remember. Fuel consumption at times 2, which won't really be a problem. Tyre wear at times 8. Get a grid start with a false start check, and we have the racing hard and the racing medium tyres. So as in been the case with the last 2 weeks, let's assume that those racing hard tyres are going to be mandatory. Now the circuit we're going to be visiting needs very little introduction. Of course, the world famous Circuit des Francorchamps, located in the Ardennes Forest in Belgium, home of many a famous corner, too many to name. Got all the names of the corners on the screen as we do a very fast helicopter shot lap of the circuit. Coming out of Stavelot 2, on the run down towards Bloodchimon, not quite as fearsome a corner in the Group 2 cars as some others, through the bus stop chicane and over at the start finish grid. And talking of that grid, this race will be a grid start with a false start check. And one thing to note about the Group 2 cars is that the 2008 cars get off the line far better than the 2016 cars, to the tune of maybe around about 7 to 8 tenths of a second. So that's just something to remember when picking your car in this one. Moving on to some strategy though, we did actually pick the 2016 GTR, despite the fact it doesn't go off the line as well as its 2008 counterpart. But in general, when it comes to Group 2, this seems to be the car of choice at the moment with the current BOP, and so I thought this would be the car that would be apt to use for our testing. However, I have no idea what will be the meta car come sort of race day, and once more players start figuring a few things out, I'm sure one car will come to the fore, as it very often does, and you'll see a whole lot of them on the grid, a bit like the Audi TT last week. But this is the one-stop strategy. We're going to start to do a stint on the mediums and then move on to the hard tyres. And so the one-stop, in all honesty, is just really a case of making those medium tyres last as long as possible. Tyre wear at times 8 is fairly high, so you wouldn't expect the mediums to be able to do the entire distance and just do a single lap on the hards. However, on to lap 6 we are now on this run on the mediums. They are starting to give up a little bit of grip and feel a little bit second hand, so I think we will pit at the end of this lap. Just started to feel the grip was just not quite there anywhere on these tyres. Back end getting a little bit loose. It seemed like a good idea to see if that crossover would be around about lap 6. Now we were being quite hard on the tyres on this run, and I don't think they've thanked me very much for it. I did do a previous one-stop run on this just to get up to speed on the track, and I did feel that they lasted a little bit longer, although I was trying to be a little bit more gentle on the tyres on that occasion. But we'll come into the pits here, we'll get an idea of the pit loss, and we'll sort of mention fuel as well. So into the pits in Spa we come. Now most players will know that the sort of pit lane in Spa is one of the longer ones in Gran Turismo Sport, particularly in Group 3. Not quite as long a pit stop in Group 2. Now we get the hard tyres on, cars back out onto the track. Pit loss coming in at around about 8 to 9 seconds. So kind of rules out anything other than a one stop or a no stop for this one. There's certainly no option for the 2 stop. That pit loss is just far too much to make that an option. In terms of fuel, we don't have to worry about that. Never really do when it comes to a Group 2 race. Fuel only set at times 2. The fuel meter is on the screen there. You can see we're on lap 7. We have 11 laps remaining in a 9 lap race. Do be careful on those hard tyres on exiting the pits, not so much through Eau Rouge and Radium, but when you get down the Camel Straight towards Les Combes, they will not be quite up to temperature, so just brake just a little bit early when you come out of the pits for Les Combes. However, we're coming to the end of our one-stop run here, done our third lap on the hard tyres here. Lap 8, 207.4, seemed just about right for about the sort of right time for us to have made that pit stop in terms of lap time, and then a 207.1 to finish, a probably slightly more representative lap. But the finishing time up on the screen there for the one stop is a 19 minutes 14.4. That will be the benchmark as we move on to take a look at our next strategy, and that's going to be the non-stop on the hard tyres. Now of course this is only going to be an optional strategy if it is just the hard tyres that are mandatory. I think it will be as has been the case with the last couple of weeks, but sometimes PD do throw in a little spanner in the works there when it comes to strategy by making both the medium and the hard tyres mandatory, and if that is the case, then this strategy will not be possible. So coming out of the bus stop chicane for the 6th time on the non-stop strategy, we have got the split screen up in the top right hand corner there. We have the one stop in the pits at the moment. We've got both the races synced up, so we'll get an idea of what car is going to have track position at this stage in the race. And you can see the non-stop is going to actually jump the one stop there in the pit stop sequence. Not by much, only looks like a couple of seconds. And obviously the hard tyres now on the non-stop run are beginning to feel a little bit second hand. So let's see if the one stop on fresher hard can hunt down the non-stop on worn hards. So jumping forward here to the sort of last part of the last lap, we're on the run down towards Francorchamp and the bus stop chicane for the last time. You can see from the split screen that the one stop has quite clearly managed to close that gap down, and they're pretty much even as we come through Francorchamp. We've just got the braking zone for the bus stop chicane to go here. Obviously a difference in tyre performance at this stage of the race, and it looks to me as we come out of the bus stop chicane that the one stop is actually just slightly ahead of the non-stop and is going to finish in a slightly quicker time. But what is the non-stop's finishing time? It's a 19 minutes 14.9, so just half a second slower than the one stop, which means we've got two strategies which are very close indeed. So as always at this point in the video, let's do a quick recap on the strategies that we've looked at. And first up, we took a look at the one stop strategy. Starting on the medium tyres, we did 6 laps, and then we moved on to the hard for 3 laps. Now lap 6 looks to be around about the optimal time to make that change, although I think the sort of window will be a little bit wider than that, maybe even laps 5 to 7, depending on how good you are in your tyres and maybe how that race is unfolding. If you get to around about lap 5 and you find yourself mired in traffic, it might be worth diving into the pits that lap early and see if you can get a bit of clean air, get that undercut and try and make some progress that way. Starting from the back of the grid or a little bit further back, or even at the front of the grid, maybe try to take advantage of the dirty air that the Group 2 cars give off. You could start on those hard tyres, just do a couple of laps. I think you could maybe get 7 laps on the mediums once you've burned the fuel down a little bit, but you will be struggling towards the end. But certainly doing 3 laps on the hards and then 6 laps on the mediums will be absolutely doable, and probably quite a handy strategy from the back of the grid. Next up, we looked at the non-stop. As mentioned earlier, that's only going to be possible if the sort of stipulation on the tyres that it's just the hard tyres that are mandatory. We don't know that at this stage or as I'm making this video. The non-stop actually coming in with a very close time to the one-stop, only a half second slower, but it's going to have its own problems. Remember, we do these strategy runs in clear air, so we're kind of in optimal conditions. I think if you start on hard tyres, you're going to find yourself, as is usual in these races, under a lot of pressure from medium tyre runners, and you could well find yourself bleeding a whole lot of time in the early stages of the race, and by the time sort of medium runners start making their pit stop, you've lost too much time. But it is definitely a workable strategy if you can kind of sort of put in the kind of lap times that are representative. So again, interesting race in prospect. 2 strategies that do seem to work quite well, seem to be very close, and some options there on that pit window on the one-stop strategy as well. Should mean we should see people doing some different things. And do remember that thing that we looked at on the grid there. The 2008 cars do get off the grid so much better than the 2016 cars. To the extent you could probably be starting in 5th or 6th place on one of the 2008 cars and be leading by turn number 1. However, to finish this video, we are back with a lap guide, and we're in the Nissan GTR 2016, brake balance at +1, and we're coming in to La Source. So the braking reference point for La Source is the 100 metre board. They try to keep it as tight as possible into the apex of the hairpin, get the car straightened up as best as you can and get on that power. Down towards Eau Rouge and Radion, absolutely no issues here, full throttle all the way, don't even give it a hint of a lift, even coming out the pits on cold tyres, it is full throttle. Coming down the Kemmel Straight now, the best opportunity for overtaking into Lecombe ahead. Looking for the 100 metre board or the beginning of the curve, down into 3rd gear, sacrifice your sort of speed on the second part of Lecombe, to get a better entrance and exit out of the third part, which takes you down the hill towards Bouzelle. Difficult corner here, easy to brake too late, understeer wide and lose a lot of time. Try to keep a nice tight line on the throttle as early as possible and trying to keep your momentum as high as possible through Ink's corner or No Name corner. Heading down towards probably the most difficult corner on the track is Pouon. The 50 metre board is your reference point, and then it's how brave can you be and how late can you brake and how early can you get on the throttle. A very easy corner to lose a lot of time on. If you go wide there, you'll lose 2-3 seconds. However, a lot of time can also be made up there just by being brave. Through campus we come into Stavelot 1, beginning of the curb is your reference point. Get the car rotated as much as you can to get onto the throttle as early as possible, because you can be full throttle through Stavelot 2, although it is easy to understeer a little bit wide and have to come off the throttle. But if you manage to keep the foot in, you carry that speed all the way down here towards Blanchimont. Blanchimont is easily full throttle, no lift required whatsoever, and we're coming towards the bus stop chicane to finish the lap. Braking just after the 150 board, keep it nice and tight as possible into the first part of the chicane so you can get a better line and a better rotation around the second part of the chicane and over at the start finish line for a lap of Spa-Francorchamp in the Nissan GT-R. And that's pretty much this one going to be wrapped up now. As I said a little bit earlier in the video, an interesting combination. I think this is going to be a great race, popular race. That grid start is going to cause a bit of carnage at the beginning, obviously. Penalty system seems particularly sensitive to minor contacts at the moment, so hopefully that won't ruin too many things. But all that's left to say is thank you very much for watching. Please hit that like button, please hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. It's all very much appreciated, and until the next video, I shall see you on the next one. Goodbye now.